Hey everyone, Michael Pickens here with the Libertarian Leadership Academy live stream. I made a mistake today and I did not send Ryan McClain the link to join until like 15 minutes ago. And I normally send it out hours ahead of time. So he is not here with us, but I thought I'd hop on here and just have a little conversation about what I'm seeing across the country as far as the Libertarian Party goes, candidates, activists, growth, stagnation, all of that good stuff. And I want to give a specific shout out to the Libertarian Party of Ohio. And I know there's a lot of other state parties that are doing some great things that are recruiting candidates. Um, I'm not going to go in depth because I don't know all of those other states. I am friends with quite a few people in Ohio, specifically Michael Sweeney, who is the chair. Now, what happened in Ohio 2 years ago, they were kind of on the decline. And Michael Sweeney and James Mills came in, chair and vice chair, and really started pushing to grow the organization back. And they set some really high goals. And a lot of times, libertarians are afraid to set really high goals just because, if you fail, you'll have, you know, egg on your face or dirt on your face or however you want to put it. You got to eat a plate of crow, right? There's a lot of cool sayings around that. But the thing is, they set a big goal, a huge goal of recruiting 99 state rep candidates for each of the 99 state house seats in Ohio. Now, fast forward to this year, recently filings closed, and they have 39 candidates. And I think one or two might not actually end up qualifying, but that's still great. 39 candidates that have filed. I think there was a couple of them that didn't have enough signatures. But getting 39 people committed to running for office and filing the paperwork, collecting the signatures and filing the paperwork. I think they only needed like 25 signatures, so it's a pretty low bar. That Libertarian Party of Ohio has ballot access. So the cool thing about it, though, it's like getting that many people committed to running for office and filing is a big task, and they were able to pull it off. And there's a few things that they did to pull it off, right? One, they posted on social media all the time about how they were recruiting candidates and they created some cool memes around it, right? And they put it out there into the community that they were looking to run, 99 candidates. They made it public. They shared that big goal with other people and the other people saw it and they're like, well, I've considered running. Maybe I'll throw my hat in the ring. And 39 people pulled the trigger on that. Another thing they did is I know they made a lot of phone calls and then they sent text messages out to identify libertarians in the state. And they even sent snail mail letters announcing their program and their plan to recruit those 99 candidates. So recently, a couple weeks ago, I got a phone call. Actually, I got a couple phone calls from members of the Libertarian Party of Washington. And they called me and said, hey, did you see this? The chair and the vice chair are looking to dissolve the state party. And, as someone who was chair back in 2014, 2015, and we did a lot of work recruiting candidates, that was disappointing to see. But the reasoning that they gave for wanting to dissolve the party is understandable. And they said that it was a decline in membership, not a lot of activity going on. Volunteers would come in and drop out. And I totally understand that. And I actually called up the vice chair and we talked for about an hour and a half. And candidly, he told me that he didn't want to dissolve the state party, but they didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to get people involved and active. So this was like their last ditch effort to get people back involved and back engaged. And it absolutely worked. So the year before, there was about 15 delegates that showed up. This year, there was over 40. I believe when the vote happened, there was 40 delegates. You know, when I was just to put in perspective, when I was elected chair of the Libertarian Party of Washington back in 2014, we had 144 delegates that showed up to that convention. right? But we also had 12 state rep candidates, and we had put in the work the 2 years prior to recruit people. So in 2012 in Washington State, I was Gary Johnson's campaign coordinator, and there were no other candidates running in Washington State on the ballot. Gary Johnson was the only libertarian on the ballot in Washington State back in 2012. And I was like, wow, we can't let this happen again. So we were able to recruit 12 candidates to run for state rep, invited all 12 to show up at the convention, gave them all time to speak, right? And we also had Gary Johnson and Judge Jim Gray and Chris Novoselic from Nirvana, and we had a lot of good speakers too. So we had over 144 delegates and over 200 people in attendance, which is awesome. So fast forward to this weekend, a couple days ago, there was 40 delegates. Year before that, there was only 15 that showed up. So that's growth in and of itself, 2.5 times growth, right? Because they did a little bait and switch, right? They said, oh, we're going to dissolve the party if people don't get active. Well, when the vote came to dissolve the party, it was 38 nays. So 38 delegates said, no, we don't want to dissolve the party. Two said yes, right? So it was 38 to 2. So that was, not even close to happening, right? So the chair and the vice chair in their email that they sent out, that they sent out an email saying that if the party does not dissolve, if the delegates choose to not dissolve the party, then what they were going to do is resign their positions. So people had contacted me. I've been chair in the past. I said, you know what? I'm doing candidate trainings and I'm interviewing candidates every day. And I'm ready. I'm ready to get back in there. When I first became chair in Washington State, I was 29 years old. A lot different now. I've grown up quite a bit. I've learned to control, your communication style and able to, I don't know, be a little more tactful when I communicate with people and build those relationships instead of coming in like a wrecking ball. So I said yes, and I made some phone calls and got some people to come back. When we had ran those candidates, 12 candidates in 2014, we had 15 candidates in 2015, five got elected. Don Myers, who was elected to city council in Moses Lake, who is still elected to city council in Moses Lake, he was there, and quite a few more people from that era in the Libertarian Party of Washington came back in. Now, there was a whole lot more that wanted to show up, but it was just too short notice, right? So we only had like 2 weeks ahead of time, and some people I talked to a week before then because there's only so much time during the day. But we had a lot of good people that came back. And I was able to meet a lot of the newer people. And the cool thing is that they are all good people. The ones that were holding down the fort, trying the best that they could to make things happen. And, they just got burnt out. And it happens when you're working on these things for years and you don't see a whole lot of progress, you can get burnt out. And that's kind of where they were. It's not like they were bad people wanting to destroy the party. No, they were just tired. And it's totally understandable, right? I've been there. We've all been there. So now there's a new group of us that are ready to step up, and we're going to be doing a similar initiative to what the Libertarian Party of Ohio did. We don't have um, 99 state rep seats. We have, I believe it's 49 state rep seats with two candidates or two state rep candidates per district, so be 98 candidates. So we're going to be doing something similar. We're going to be launching that. We already have the newsletter, our very first newsletter again, that's going to be coming out on April 1st, which is in 2 days. Thank you, James Holcomb. He put that together, and I just finished up my article for that newsletter. And we're going to announce, our plan to recruit candidates for local office, candidates for county, state, and national office. I've already talked to two potential candidates today. One who had ran in the past, he wants to run again in 2 years. And then another person who has never ran before, but she wants to run for Congress. So whether they follow through with it, we've already started making the calls and reaching out to people who might be interested in running for office. Now, granted, I called one of them, the other one called me. because she was in the Discord and she was talking about running for office, and they're like, "Well, talk to Michael Pickens." So, anyways, the key is reaching out to people, making the calls, building the relationships with those candidates and activists or potential candidates and activists from around the state, wherever you live in your community, to start building that rapport and getting people thinking about the possibility of making a positive impact in their own community using the political process, running for office. Thomas Jefferson said it best. He said, educate and inform the whole mass of the people. They are the only sure alliance for the preservation of our liberty. The whole point of running for office, well, there's actually many points, but the whole point's to win, right? The goal is to win. We have to get elected to office if we're going to reduce the size and scope of intrusive government using legislation by voting. But the thing is, let's say you're running for state house and you win. There's a libertarian elected to state house in Washington state. Who are you going to caucus with? Who knows, right? Maybe sometimes the Republicans, maybe sometimes the Democrats, but you are a lone voice. But the thing is, we use these opportunities to run for office to educate people in the community about our solutions, about what a libertarian, what it actually means to be a libertarian, self-ownership, non-aggression, voluntarism, you know, how the free market can benefit society and has benefited society in the past. We have this opportunity. So if you're considering running for office, um, if you are considering running for office, whether you're in Washington state or whether you are in whatever state, right? I want you to go to lp.org. I'm going to pull it up right now. All right, here we go. It's lp.org /run -for -office. So lp.org /run -for -office. And you're going to fill out a form. It's a running for office form. And what that is going to do, that's going to get you plugged into all the resources that are available from national to run for office. It's also going to get you plugged into the trainings that I've been doing every Wednesday. Those are completely free. There's a very good supportive group of candidates and activists in there. So we do about 45 minutes of training and then we open it up for question and answer to, let's say there's something that we didn't bring up on the training that you're interested in. Maybe it's about fundraising or media or debates or whatever it is, right? That's the last part of the call is open up for questions. And a lot of times there's free discussion because I don't know every issue. And the last call, we had some people from Pennsylvania that are fighting the data centers, and we had some candidates that weren't really familiar with the data centers, but they also have them coming into their community. So it was a really good conversation between candidates that have tons of knowledge when it comes to data centers and candidates that didn't really have a whole lot of knowledge, but now they do because they were able to ask other people. So these calls are really informative and they basically teach you different aspects of running for office when it comes to the community building and the sales aspect and fundraising and personal development. Right? This is all stuff that can be used in your daily life also, not just with running for office. So there's a lot of good stuff happening around the country. I think I've interviewed over 60 candidates now since I started doing this, and a lot of really good candidates that are running. I just have to remind everyone when you first start running for office, there's going to be a lot of things that you don't know, skill sets that you haven't learned yet, but you just need to be open to learning new skills. On the training we did last week, I talked about a book um, by Malcolm Gladwell, and it's called Outliers. And in this book, Outliers, he talks about the best of the best in different industries and different sports and musicians, right? And he says in that book that to become like the top 0.1% piano player in the world, like you have to spend or invest 10,000 hours of your time into practicing piano, right? And whatever it is, tennis players and baseball players and whatever, you can, look at any of the top, they put a lot of time into it. There's another book called The First 20 Hours. And the gentleman who wrote that, his name is Joshua Kaufman, and that's a great book. And in that book, that he says that to become okay at something, you need to put about 20 hours of time. So to be like mediocre at whatever it is, you put about 20 hours of time. So I want you to think about this, whether it's phone calls and fundraising or knocking on doors or communicating to people in public, learning how to ask the right questions to get people to engage with you in a positive way takes about 20 hours, right? And for some people it'll be faster, for some people it'll be longer. But the good thing about this is that you can learn the skills necessary to run for office by just putting a little bit of time and effort and giving yourself permission to learn the new skills, giving yourself permission to make mistakes, right? To fail along the way. And a mistake is only a mistake if you don't learn from it. Once you learn from it, it becomes a lesson, right? So that's no negativity there, it's all positivity. So we have to understand that the mistakes that we make along the way, those are the stepping stones that are going to lead us to the success that we want. And as far as campaigning goes, that success is winning. That success is winning. And a lot of times we really have to focus on the long term vision with the short term goals, especially if it's the first time you're running for office. Because the first time you're running for office, it's like you got to build a website. You're putting your issues together. You're learning how to talk on social media or do live streams or whatever it is, right? The learning curve is pretty high when you first run for office. So I always encourage candidates to commit to running for office 3 times. So the first time you run, like I said, it's a learning experience. You're growing the skills that you need. You're building your website. You're recruiting your first volunteers and your first donors, and it's exciting stuff. However, a lot of times the campaigns are too short, right? It's like you were just starting to build momentum and then election night happened and maybe you don't get the results you want. When you commit to running for office 3 times, it doesn't stop there. And the people who join your campaign, they are going to be committed with you, your donors. Think about this. If you're talking to someone that likes you, they're going to vote for you, and they're like, you know what, Michael, I'd like to donate to your campaign. And then you tell them, well, I'm not planning on running again. And they're going to look at you and be like, oh, okay, well, never mind. Right. But if you turn around and say, look, the donation you put into this campaign right now is going to pay dividends in the future because I'm going to keep running. I am running to get the same issues that we care about, right? And that's part of the fundraising training that I do is you have to ask questions to find out what they care about. And then if you agree with them, then you build rapport based on those issues, right? So, John, we both believe in, voluntary property taxes. I'm going to use your money and I'm going to use with my campaign to promote the idea of voluntary property taxes to everyone in the community. So more people can hear about this idea and we could possibly adopt it in the future. Whether I win or not in November, there's going to be thousands of people who now hear this message and this idea of voluntary property taxes. Now, when you talk to someone who wants to give you money like that and you show them that you're going to take that and you're going to keep going with it and you're going to run again and you're going to promote the ideas that they care about, they're apt to give you even more money. Not just that, if you get them on recurring donations, $5 a month, $10 a month, $40 a month, whatever it is, whatever they can afford, right? They are now committed for the long term. Because if you're able to get 100 people doing $40 a month, you know, that's $4,000 a month. There's a lot you can do with that. And running social media ads and sending out mailers and promoting issues that everyone cares about, you're able to make a positive impact in your community and you're able to build the network that is needed to be successful. So another cool thing I learned from the convention this weekend is that, you know, the, yeah, the Washington State Party, they had the disillusion, like I said in the very beginning, that the chair and the vice chair put it out there. But the reality was they didn't really want to dissolve the party. And they said that they just wanted to get people motivated to show up. And it did work. There was a lot of people that came back from the past that showed back up and said, you know what, we do not want to dissolve the party. we're going to come back in and we're going to help. So a lot of those people are now back in helping out, right? But the cool thing that was said during one of the talks about, going against dissolving the party is that we've all met some of our best friends within the Libertarian Party. We've all met some of our best friends campaigning, people who think like we do, right? And that's important because you go out there in the community, you don't really know um, what someone believes, but when you step into a room of libertarians, it's like there's 80 to 90% of things we agree on. You know what I mean? So being able to build those relationships is a huge part of the Libertarian Party, and hopefully positive relationships. When I was called to come back in and to step up and to run for chair, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do it if there's going to be a bunch of drama. Like I don't want to deal with a bunch of drama. And luckily there really wasn't. They told me, you know what? A lot of the people who were causing drama in the past, they're gone. They're just not really here anymore. So I said, okay, we'll check it out. We'll see how it goes. And it was true. you know, I met a lot of great people that I didn't know before, and I got to hang out with old friends. So it was a super positive experience. And what we're going to do is the same thing that Ohio did is we're going to recruit a bunch of candidates to run for state office and local office, and we're going to use marketing and advertising to do it. So we have a meeting coming up next weekend. We're going to be voting to approve a daily ad spend budget to recruit candidates and activists. Now, these ads are not going to be targeted towards the general public. These ads are going to be targeted towards people who like the Libertarian Party Washington page on Facebook or the National Libertarian Party page on Facebook that live within Washington state. Why would we do that? We do not want to try to convince people to become libertarian with these ads. All we're looking to do is shoring up our base. We are trying to find those who already think like we do to get them to come back into the organization, to become communicators of libertarian solutions, of libertarian philosophy by running for office, right? We're not looking to educate everyone right now at this moment. Now, once we have 40, 50 candidates running across the state, we're going to be teaching each of those candidates how to run their own ads, how to make their own content that's educating people in their communities, and they will be running ads in their geographic area to then educate the public on it, right? So first, as the state party, as the state chair, we're going to be running ads specifically to libertarian leaning people, people who used to be in the party, people who are still in the party, people who are self-identified small L libertarians. We're going to target the low hanging fruit first, and we're going to shore up our base. We're going to try to get everyone we can who considers himself a libertarian back on board. We're going to increase membership, and then we're going to recruit candidates. I've already talked to two people who are interested in running for office today. It's not going to be difficult. It's just going to take time. And that's what we're going to make happen. And then those candidates that run, we're going to do our best to educate them on how to be great communicators of libertarian principles, of solutions, of how to win friends and influence people in their communities. We're going to do the best that we can. So, for those of you who are watching this right now, if you're interested in running for office, you want to go to lp.org/run for office, and there's a little form there, /run -for -office. So run -for -office. Someone going to put it in there. Here we go. I'm going to put it in the comments on one of these accounts. How can I comment on everything? Post a comment. Boom. I wonder if it goes on everything. Oh, it does. Look at that. Facebook, YouTube, and X. Nope, can't post on X. Great. Facebook and YouTube. Okay, fantastic. So you're going to want to go and fill out this form to run for office. What this is going to do is give you access to some resources that the National Party has. Okay, so I do a weekly training on Wednesday evenings, and you're going to get an email about that weekly training. There's also a workbook, and you're going to get connected with other libertarian leaders in your state. Hopefully, they contact you, right? We're trying as I'm on the affiliate, not affiliate, the candidate support committee. Um, and we've talked about how we get the state party chairs and other state leaders to engage the candidates as soon as they come in, as soon as they fill out this form. So we're going to be working on that as well. So, anyways, again, I apologize. I forgot to send Ryan McClain the link. We are going to reschedule with Ryan. This was not his fault. I sent him the link like 15 minutes before we were supposed to go live. So I usually send it hours ahead of time. But I got busy. I had a bunch of catching up to do. I'm now the elected chair of the Libertarian Party of Washington. So I am looking forward to using my new position in Washington State to create guidelines and trainings on how to build a state party quickly, how to recruit candidates and new members quickly. So that'll be a very fun training once it gets put together. But, anyways, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for watching. Tomorrow we have John Thomas. John is running as lieutenant governor in Pennsylvania. So I'm excited to talk to him, see what's going on out in the PA. So thank you all very much. You have a wonderful evening.